I'm here today to talk about strategic foresight in relation to kind of planning and future of food as well. We come from basically from strategic foresight research and consultancy. Our background is very strong in the academic domain. The company was originally founded by a group of futurists in Finland, in Turku University, a research center. We cover a wide array of topics and themes. Future of food is just one of them. So our aim is mainly to look into strategic foresight, trying to understand the kind of societal change as a whole, the larger perspective of change into the future. I will explain in a minute a little bit more. We work with various different organizations, as I mentioned. Food sector is one of them. We also work a lot with governments, research, academic and education. If we look a little bit into strategic foresight and how does that position relate to other type of intelligence, if you look at now, today, you all work with business metrics, market trends, you look into consumer insights data, you look into market forecasts, understanding the price of wheat, price of raw materials, and so on. What foresight tends to do is to help organizations, and especially planners, to look on the longer horizon, especially focusing on plus 3 years into the future. In order to be there, in order to be efficient in your plans, and also trust your plans, you need different types of data. You need futures intelligence. You need different types of methodologies and processes, like horizon scanning, scenario analysis, and phenomena analysis. Because if you take any forecast of today, let's take price of wheat, for example, and then a sudden impact event like Ukraine war happened, what happened with the prices. You cannot trust the forecasts of today and the data of today when you do longer term planning. You need to look into alternatives, alternative perspectives. How many people know what strategic foresight is or work with it here today? Okay, not that many. Yeah, exactly. But as said, all your companies do plans beyond 3 years into the future. That's why it's really, really crucial to apply the data, the techniques, and also the different types of methods related to foresight. There's also research to back that this is worth it for companies. This is a good research, you can Google it, by René Robeck and Menes Etinkum from Aarhus University. I think they studied a couple of hundred big corporations over 8 years, and those corporations or companies, organizations that were able to apply and implement foresight in an efficient way really had an impact on their business, as you can see, both on profitability and growth. And that's just due to being prepared. PepsiCo, I know there's people from here from PepsiCo. You did really well during COVID because you had a pandemic plan, because you were prepared. You are one of those called vigilant organizations. Shell corporations globally. Shell already from the 70s has been doing strategic foresight methodologically and ongoing continuously. And year after year, they've been able to perform. In fact, interestingly, they have a revolution team that looks into the future, into year 2080. That's quite far. Not everybody does that. Another issue related to foresight, important to understand, is that, the disruptive forces, the trends that will impact your business, they can come from within your domain, within your own industry, of course. But as industry lines are blurred anyway, and as we are not isolated in our business from the rest of the world, the impacts from the domains beyond can really, really have an effect. And that's why it's important to kind of do the scanning, do the monitoring, look beyond the horizon of your own industry. Look beyond your industry, because that's where the disruptions often come. Well, COVID and Ukraine war both came from, outside, from the geopolitical sense and then from the health and well-being. When we look a little bit into the planning processes of organizations or corporations. And by the way, this reflects to public organizations, research, NGOs. It doesn't matter. Whatever human organization you come from and you do planning, this applies to you. And if you look at down below there, there's the kind of the traditional, very simplified traditional planning process. But the point here is that it aims towards similar visions. Market players, different organizations share similar visions that they're heading towards. You know, you look at the historical data, you extrapolate it, and this is how the world will go. The quantitative data tells us. That's not how it goes, unfortunately. You need to look into alternatives. You need to look into possible, plausible, probable futures. You need to have some kind of alternatives. Weigh out those alternatives and prepare for them. And coming to the planning process, when you work towards similar visions, you have a very linear process. You have your Excel spreadsheets, it's all very linear. You can still use Excel if you do Foresight, don't worry. But in Foresight, you need different methodologies and tools. You need to do stuff like horizon scanning, scenario planning or scenario analysis. You need to use different types of data and intelligence like wildcards, phenomena, strong trends, weak signals. These are different forms of futures intelligence that you should use when you do this type of planning. And yeah, I know it's not easy, and it often requires a new way of working, but once you take that step and do go over that threshold, it's not that difficult, to be honest. It's just implementing and applying those methodologies. One key thing also in Foresight, good to know, it's often collaborative, or it should be collaborative and engaging across the organization. Because this is an intuitive-based process, a human-based process. You should have different stakeholders to take part of it. If you involve your clients, even better. Okay? If we look a little bit into the exponential nature of how the global change behaves, and this is adapted from the Futures Cone, which is a scientific article and a scientific model related to Foresight. 3 years, it's pretty easy to see, as I said before. 3 years, you can assess. These are the trends, this is how the industry goes. There are a few wild cards outside there, yeah, that you need to take into account. But the further you go in your planning, if you have a roadmap that goes to 8, let alone 10 years, it's not that easy, is it? There's a lot of things going on here. Your horizon becomes really, really complex. There is a lot of things you need to take into account. How do you assess this? How do you scan and monitor for all these trends, wildcards, weak signals? It's not an easy job, okay? But it's worth doing it, really is worth doing it. And this is exactly why there are different methodologies and systems. With Futures Platform, we love our radars. And by the way, you can access one of our radars if you want. Come to our booth, S9, and we'll give you a link. And also online, you can find the link to it. The radar is one way. There's other ways. Idea here is that you start making sense of that complex world. You try to somehow to assess it, to crystallize it, to do prioritization, really assessing those key priorities, identifying the key issues that are related to you. And as I said, there's different types of methodologies. We created the Future of Food radar for you to understand, and the radar, as I said, is one way. But it's a quite a good way, because in a holistic image and a view, you get to see the time horizon, which is represented by rings on that radar. You will have sectors splitting out and displaying the key sectors or key themes within your topic or question. And then the dots, the dots on the pizza, or the dartboard, whatever you call it, represent the issues, phenomena, the data, and the content you need to prioritize. Just to finish off, I wanted to share some of the insight with you that we have, or our futurists have developed. We have our own futurist team, 10 people doing continuous research using AI. By the way, I recommend everybody do their own horizon scanning and trend research. I know some of your organizations do this, and I know you do this already on the short term, and I was talking about the 3 years into the future, but also the longer horizon. I do encourage everybody to include the Horizon 2 and 3 into the game as well. So yeah, there's a few phenomena here. Some of you are probably working with these issues, so no news to you. I've selected a couple of strong trends. Strong trend means it has a historical tail, it already exists, typically 2 years into the past. A mega trend is something that's been around 10 to 15 years already. So there's micro, macro, mega trends, if you like. So 3D printed food is one of them. We have estimated the point of impact between 24, 28. Some of you might think different, but that's how the futurists see the kind of the point of impact of this particular phenomena in the market curve. Also, manipulated taste experience is something that we see a lot now. There's a lot of discussion around it. But then an interesting wild card we threw there: smart and short food supply chains, SFSCs. Is anybody working with these, or anybody has heard of these? Good. Then it's still a wild card. Okay, just wanted to make sure. If every one of you would have lifted your hands, we could have changed this to a strong trend. Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. The nature of wild cards, just to point out, by the way, they are typically, we call them low probability, high impact type of events. So they are something that can really be game changers. There's something really to look into. We had Ukraine war, COVID, both of them were as wild cards already over 10 years ago. So wild cards often hide or have a threat or great opportunity built into them. And that's why wild cards are essential in foresight or strategic foresight. Also weak signals, that's another format as well. Well, lab-grown foods, is there organizations here working with that? Yeah. No? Okay, interesting. Okay. We also have a report you can read about more if you like. This is a short report, just a display, and as I said, around the radar about the future of food sector. But I would like to use a few more minutes left for any questions anybody might have. So does anybody want to ask anything or have a question related to my presentation? No questions? Oh, there is. Thank you. Yes, lady. Yeah.
We don't know what will be in months before.
Yeah.
What would be your advice for us?
Yeah.
How can we, what can we do better, or what can we look for in order to somehow continue our work?
Yeah. Thank you very much. If you didn't hear, the question was somewhat like you were from Ukraine, and you were asking in their type of environment, how do you implement or use foresight when things are happening on a short time span? You really don't know what's happening in a month's time or in a quarter, in 3 months' time. It's a very good question. I would say the war, and especially the war situation, is very unique. You can use foresight, and in a way, foresight is still important to prepare for beyond. Prepare for this situation after. You can also do foresighting on a shorter time spell. We use scenario planning, tactical scenario planning, which comes from military, by the way. Methodology called 2x2 axis or axis of uncertainty. That can be used even on a shorter scale. Prepare, for example, for critical threats or events happening on a shorter term. Trying to make sense out of a complex, hazy situation. That's what foresight is originally built for. So yes, you can, but at the same time, I do understand and I do appreciate the nature of the situation, meaning that you cannot impact everything, but at least be prepared to certain things. But scenario planning could be something you could use on a more tactical, I call it tactical level because the time span is so short, okay? But of course, prepare for the future, prepare for tomorrow. That's important as well. All right. I think I'm almost running out of time, at least it says so here. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks.